by Allie X, which Karl chose for February. So over to you, Karl.
Yeah, so this was my pick. It was a strange case where, you know, three of my most anticipated records for the month all ended up getting selected. So I had to have a good look at the schedule and sort of see, what else I could potentially go for, which was where I was reminded about Allie X, because she kind of fallen off my radar a bit. I discovered her through her last album, Cape God, which it was just one of those albums that I found during lockdown. It had like an interesting concept behind it, where it was inspired by a HBO documentary, which I've still not seen, even though after I listened to the album the first time, I was like, oh, I must watch that documentary now. Um, but yeah, it was a HBO documentary about fentanyl addiction called Heroin Cape Cod, USA. So obviously that's where the title comes from. Um, so as you can imagine, it was lyrically like quite a dark record, but sonically very much upbeat, catchy pop record. Quite mainstream actually in its sound, to its detriment. I think sometimes it verged too much on the uh, mainstream pop sound, but there was moments where it was kind of more your old pop. Funnily enough, there's a track on there with Mitski on it, just to give her a shout out again. Um, and it was one of those that, although I enjoyed it at the time, honestly, I'd completely forgotten about her and that album until obviously, yeah, we came to picking this month. So I then went and listened to the singles from Girl with No Face, and yeah, was just completely taken with them. So I was happy to add it to the slate. Um, and now, yeah, I've listened to it a lot in the last month. I'm even more happy to have picked this because, yeah, I honestly think it's fantastic. Saw it build actually on Apple Music as New Order and Kraftwerk meets Madonna and Lady Gaga, and I think that is pretty much spot on. If you've seen her music videos for the singles to these tracks, I would also add in acts like Kate Bush, Talking Heads, definitely elements of those artists coming through as well. Bit of Human League as well in some of the songs here. But as you can imagine, what it is just a really fun, imaginative, wildly creative 80s inspired synth pop record, which pretty much is just banger after banger from start to finish. Obviously, a bit of a trend at the moment. The synth pop scene is almost as overcrowded as maybe the UK post punk scene at the moment. But I believe what makes this record stand out for me is Ali's like unique quirkiness and creative vision that she's obviously put the stamp onto this record. Case in point, Garlina, which similar to I believe off Caroline's Polychecks record last year, has almost like a Eurovision quality to it, where it like verges on cheesy pop without quite going too far. But when you read what the inspiration for the song is, which obviously I said to you guys, it's about this woman who made this revolutionary eczema cream that Ali used and then retired without handing over the recipe. So obviously listening to that song and then obviously reading that background story to it, it just added this hilarious dimension to that track, which I think is just fantastic. And I think that's what I love about the record. It's like she obviously doesn't take herself too seriously, which I think is the main thing. And she finds creative inspiration in these like oddly ordinary, seemingly mundane places and twist them into something quite fun. Like John and Jonathan was just this gay couple that she met at a meet and greet. Couldn't get over this, and she couldn't get over between the synergy of their names, be it John and Jonathan. So she went away and wrote that track. You Slept on Me was about a tweet she saw where someone was like, "You're all sleeping on Allie X, what are you doing?" So yeah, it just makes for a really fun record that is very much uniquely hers. And as I say, like there's so many great tracks on here in terms of favourites. The opener, Weird World, which although was apparently written during lockdown, feels oddly even more apt now, I think. I watched Anthony Fantano's review for the album, and I think he said it best where he says it works both as a comment on like the increasingly weird times we find ourselves in, but also as an introduction to Allie's sort of strange, bizarre musical world that she brings you into on this record. It kind of works on both counters there. And obviously you mentioned the similarities to Bonnie Tyler's I Need a Hero on that track as well, which as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, you can definitely hear that coming through. Off with Her Tits, we've got to talk about that song. Just genius. Probably going to be hard to top for me as the pop song of the year. Super, super catchy. Has this medieval Henry VIII style. I know Henry VIII's not medieval before anyone chips in on the comments for that. But you know what I mean? He's got like this medieval style delivery in the chorus, which works, I think, with the song's subject matter being all about, you know, societal views on gender identity and self-acceptance. And again, just a really quirky, unique way of tackling that subject and the way that she puts that across. I think it's just brilliant. And like I say, just the song itself is super, super catchy. The final minute or so on that as well, with Allie's vocal screams, and you've got all these shimmering synths just popping off. Just sublime. Really love that song. Just want to quickly shout out as well, Black Eye, which was the first song I heard off the record, probably still my favourite as well. It's between that and Off With Her Tits. But yeah, Black Eye, just hugely reminiscent of New Order's Blue Monday, which is never a bad thing. But yeah, again, Allie puts her own stamp on it, so it's still very much her song. Got this brilliant synth line running through it, which is quite addictive. But yeah, towards the back end where it just turns purely into like shades of New Order's Blue Monday, that's where it kind of kicks in for me. Again, just a fantastic track. There is one that I skip on here. It's the one moment that I'd say lets the album down, and that's Hardware Software. I've tried to come around on it. I think you guys know the first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh no, what have I done with this?" But yeah, it's. I think coming after that, especially coming after that excellent first half, I think those first 5 songs are just fantastic. And this one just, I think it feels quite weak and cheap by comparison, coming after that stellar kind of opening run. But then you've got Black Eye, which is the next track, and I think, you know, arguably that song sounds even better coming off the back of Hardware Software. So swings around maybe with that one, but yeah, that's the one that I kind of skip when I'm listening back. But yeah, as you can tell, big fan of this record. Think much like Caroline last year, or last February, has set the standard for pop records for the rest of the year for me. As I say, Hardware Software is probably the one moment that I think lets it down, but I think the other 10 tracks on here, you know, more than make up for that one slip up. It's just real, and a big step up, I'll say as well, from Cape Cod. As I said, I think that album maybe verged at times where it went kind of too commercial pop. Whereas this one, she seems to have found her creative stride and found her groove on this one. So yeah, real big fan, top tier pop music, if that's your thing.
Kylie, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I'm glad Karl brought this one to the table. I was completely unfamiliar with Allie X, and this album reminds me. I kept on thinking, you know, I was saying "Hooray for the Riff Raff" was the version of that Mitski album that I wanted, and this was making me think of Alison Goldfrapp's record that we reviewed last year. But this is the version of that I want to hear. There's just, you know, much more going on, and you know, I think it's funny to the Eurovision comparisons on Galena which I hadn't really thought of as a, you know, a yank, I guess. And it does make sense though. And for me, that's my favorite song on this album. And just the front half of this, yeah, Weird World is just very topical. Off with Her Tits, I'm With You, just that keeps on. You know, I had all these in a shuffle, and every time that came on, I turn it up. It's just, it's catchy while, you know, skewering at the same time. And John and Jonathan as well. We can laugh at the similarity in the names, but it makes for a very catchy song. And so yeah, I'm with you. Hardware Software is the one I would cut from this album and make it a tighter 10 tracks, because that is my thing with this record, is that it does kind of in the back get a bit repetitive for me in what's going on, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. And just awesome synth pop yet. Galena, total like Kate Bush to me on top of that. And, you know, even some like B-52s here and there popping up. And yeah, just I think a really nice surprise for me, and one that you know, I would say I've probably listened to this one the second most out of all the albums this month. So yeah, high approval and really enjoyed it.
As did I. Like you, unfamiliar with Allie X, and yeah, it wasn't one as well. I think, you know, maybe one will come to, or a couple, I would say, you need to listen to it quite a few times to really get under the skin of an album. Whereas actually this one is, you listen to it once and you get a general kind of feel for it. You know, that synth pop kind of viewpoint. There's kind of that gothic undertone as well. And yeah, I was reminded of Creeper actually from our was it October or November episode? Yeah. October, in that kind of gothic thing. So Karl, that was you as well. So I fully expect for the March episode you to have a white paint on your face, black clothing. Well, you are wearing black clothing to be fair, but the fingernails, everything, you know. You're the resident goth in our trio, it seems. But yeah, like but then there's that element, but then also Caroline Polachek, who's been mentioned as well, and I think that's a really good link as well, particularly because we go back 12 months to our February episode of last year, and just a really well delivered pop record, and this is that as well. I kind of had it in segments. You know, fully agree with everything you said about those first 5 tracks. They are solid, really good pop tracks, synth heavy. Hardware Software I've probably got a little bit more love for than you guys, because another thing I just want to briefly touch upon is the lyrics are fantastic. And I can't help but find them funny on Hardware Software. Yeah. I mean, it's the song itself is, yeah, it's I mean, it's a ridiculous concept, this kind of love making between, you know, hardware and software, but it's it actually a little bit reminded me of Later Here as well, which is no bad thing in my book, but it just is underdeveloped. So I also get your reservations with that, and it was one of the worst tracks on here for me. But the bit where it really hits its stride is the trio of You Slept on Me, which Karl you referred to earlier, Saddest Smile, which is this really epic slow arrangement. You know, you've got that low hulking bass, the gothic vocals, and also the really creepy high vocals in that, which is kind of adds at the end of her like verse segment and just sort of carries as the music goes as well. I mean, that's really finding her Kate Bush or like a more acceptable version of Danny Filth, perhaps. And then Staying Power, that trio for me is just the real heartbeat of this album, where I was suddenly like, yeah, I'm converted, Allie X. I am with you. And actually, it kind of made Truly Dreams, the last track, a disappointment to me, because it was just bang, bang, bang. And then you get to Truly Dreams and it was just a little bit corny and based on what had come before, didn't reach that hype. But really, really excellent choice. I think I was a bit unsure. A similar like Creeper as well with the singles. I was like, what is this? Like, who is she? Like, and but get to listen to it, get acquainted with it, and you go, fair play again, sir. So yeah, Girl with No Face. I think that's 3 ticks from all of us there.